Did that announcer really say Goku as a youngling was that? That came out wrong for him. So, we finally got some more information about Dragon Ball Daima at the Battle Hour that was long expected after the New York Comic Con trailer back in October went down like a lead balloon, with many people in the audience just shouting, "We want Moro!" every few seconds. Whereas a few years ago, everyone goes, "We hate Moro!" It was just a weird experience. But now, thankfully, the entire audience here at the Battle Hour was far more sedate. They were calmer. Nobody was shouting and screaming, and it was a far more polite affair, with the likes of Akio Iyoku, Toriyama's wingman, coming in with more information about what we could expect. And what was this trailer that we got? Was it something that basically showcased more of the world, more of things to do with the characters and the general plot? Not exactly. What it wasn't the Goku trailer, and it was showcasing what kind of powers and techniques and overall personality we could expect. And still that Goku can fly, and he uses the power pole. And also, Iyoku via translator was also stating that he wanted the audience to be more familiar with this version of Goku before introducing more information about the story and other characters in animated form. Eventually we might get a Vegeta trailer, we might get a Imp trailer about the baddies and stuff like that. But the way that it was phrased though, and I don't know whether this was a translator issue or something, is that this to me feels like a very, very patronizing presentation. Like, they all looked at the internet's reaction back in October and how for several weeks everyone was berating Daima, hating on Daima, saying, "Nah man, this ain't it. I'm going and Dragon Ball's done." That's what they were looking at, and they were just looking at all the negative comments and just hating Daima and saying, "I'm not watching Daima, I want Super 2, I want Moro." And this is changing tack, and the way that Iyoku carried himself meant that probably the people in Japan are looking at the Western audience and how they took it, and are realizing they're not used to this, and they hate it. They don't want this. Well, we've got to try and find a way to get them to like this version of Goku again, so why don't we just show more of the world? It probably did jar the showrunners back in Japan, just seeing so much negativity towards their creation, which they have clearly put so much effort and love and passion into. There are rumors this has been in production since 2021. This is clearly a passion project and it really should be respected, but it got so much flack, so now they're just going, "Now children, this is a Goku, and he's going on these lovely adventures in space. Yes, I know he's small again. No, don't spit out your dummy, no." I'm not gonna lie, that was incredibly patronizing, and you don't need to showcase it like that for us to get used to Goku as a kid again. All it does is reinforce that this is what Daima is all about and no other characters matter. And yes, of course, Dragon Ball is pretty much the Goku show, but all it's doing is just going, right, we'll just constantly force this down people's throats and make people get used to this. That means they are numb and desensitized to it before we then give them the other sort of stuff. Also, Iyoku went on to mention that this story is meant for people who haven't seen Goku as a kid yet, or his story as a child. Oh, I get it now. Oh, this is for Z fans. These are the fans who never watched Dragon Ball in its entirety, according to Iyoku. I mean, sure, they would have seen clips or pictures of Kid Goku from the early Dragon Ball series, but maybe this is for people who never watched Dragon Ball. These are for the hardcore Z fans who jumped in when Raditz arrived on Earth. I don't think it's working. I really don't think it's working at all. I think it's working in some other ways, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but the fact that this is what Iyoku was saying via a translator, remember, this is important here, is that they are going for the Z fans here. They are trying to give the Kid Goku adventure aspect from the original Dragon Ball series, and then implanting techniques that we see in Z, which includes Goku being able to fly, and some more bombastic ki attacks. It's a nice little mishmash of the two, and I get that now. I'm starting to go, oh, okay, this is a marriage between modern Dragon Ball and classic Dragon Ball for the 40th anniversary. That's kind of neat. But the presentation so far hasn't exactly been coherent and respectful. Then this is just something I don't understand with the hype about all of this. It's something to do with never before seen illustrations. Yes, I already hear you. It doesn't sound like the most interesting thing to go with since they've now already shown the Goku trailer at the start, so probably 70% of the streaming audience have seen it. But at least we got to see it instead of New York Comic Con blocking everything. I can't tell you. Hav and I found it incredibly funny, and that justified us not covering it live. And I get why they showed the trailer at the beginning. They probably realized, look, people are probably just gonna skip through this. Let's just get it over with right now. And then the people who want to stay will have something extra. That's probably what they did. They probably were just like, look, let's just get this over with. People are here for the trailer, and then they'll go away. And then whoever's here, you can have these pictures. And you can also tell the audience aren't super hyped about the images too, because whenever they come on screen, you might get an occasional woo, but then that's it. Maybe they're just being polite and respectful as Ioku is talking, but these pictures aren't really to get hyped about because one of them is the Goku with the power pole thing we've seen before, and then Krillin wearing an orange shirt with Kame on it, which the compare and Ioku are jokingly saying, I can't understand why that is. It's Kame House, buddy. It's a shirt from Kame House. Naturally, Roshi has a brand and he's got to protect it because he named his house Kame House. But yeah, again, I think this is just Ioku, who is Toriyama's guy, basically playing it up to be cheeky and mysterious because Toriyama likes to be cheeky and mysterious and a bit of a troll. So maybe Ioku's just capturing what Toriyama's trying to do and screwing around with the audience. But for me, this is just not the way you should really be showcasing something as big as Daima. I'm actually intrigued. Let me know in the comments what you expect in a panel such as this, how things should play out, what do you want to learn, and what do you think is a really good way of covering hype without giving too much away. Then we get some black and white images that Toriyama was really reluctant to give out, but then eventually he agreed. So this is very important images. And these are black and white stills of Buu, Chi-Chi, 18, and I'm not quite, is that Mr. Satan? I know that's how you say it in Japanese, Mr. Satan, but seriously? The afro, cape, and boots didn't give it away? Well, I'm sorry. No, it's the kid version of Brook, everybody! I haven't watched One Piece, the anime. And the compare, stop saying that this version of Hercule is good looking! It's awkward! I know he's trying to be nice, but it just comes out so wrong. But hey, at least we get to see Majin Buu as a young'un, and it was also included in the spell, which does stir up some intrigue, considering that the first trailer was focused around the imp's fascination around Barbary and Dabura. So maybe Buu is no longer part of that interest, since he technically betrayed Barbary, he technically killed. Maybe it's not them going after Buu, but maybe something else that Barbary had or knew. But then Ioku is coy and goes, well, Buu might have been transformed, maybe. Well, yes, of course he is. Why else would Toriyama draw that? And we've still not seen Gohan or Videl or Pan. So they're keeping that close to their chest for some reason. And then we got some shots of demons and demon soldiers, and already you can spot the soldiers look the same as Dispo, Beerus, and Champa. Now I think this is what most people were getting from this trailer, that maybe we might get some more information about Beerus' home planet, or at least some more clues as to his origins, because we're seeing more people like him. But no. Ioku can't tell us about them just yet. Sorry, this is kind of backwards. Now you see, this is the kind of stuff that we as Western audiences would love to know more about Beerus' story. It helps narratively enhance what we already have, but have very, very minuscule amounts of. If there was a chance that Daima could cover Beerus' childhood, or at least his people, that Beerus was some kind of legend, that would be really cool. But no. We get loads of information on kid designs from characters that we're familiar with for a better part of 30 years, but then these guys, we can't tell you yet. But okay, the demons do look kind of fun though. And one looks like Trunks got into bed with a red dinosaur or something, with that hair. And then the panelist guesses that, oh, they look like they come from an RPG. I can't imagine why. Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, Charlie Brown Demon Monster? Good grief, I'm just gonna have to call this Orc Monster Charlie Brown though. Good grief, innit? But the comments from Toriyama do make a good point that his purpose with Daima is to basically convert the world of Dragon Ball into a role-playing game. That kind of setting. Which makes a lot of sense since he does have plenty of experience in this field, and probably people who loved the games he was involved in designing would get a kick out of Daima because they would recognize quite a lot of Toriyama tropes. And in fact, I would actually love to see a Dragon Ball Daima game, a 3D one. maybe something a little bit more intricate than the legacy of Goku. And at least there's a vague clue that these soldiers are somewhat important to the cause, since it's the same armor that Toriyama's avatar was wearing in that initial letter to the audience with telling people to get hype about it. And then, of course, we've got to finish off on the food. It's Goku, it's food, it has to factor in here, and like with Super, the food always ends up looking quite nice and very detailed, and yeah, that's it. Do I think this trailer helped? Yes and no. Yes, it gets the audience more used to the world the character is in, and that Goku is a kid, and that's a thing, but it doesn't give people much more new stuff to chew on concerning the other characters. I was left a little wanting with this trailer, and now left that I was being talked down to, as in, look, this is a Goku, everybody, you've got to get used to it, you know, we got to change and adapt, you know, we can't have him as an old guy anymore. It's been 3 months or so since the NYCC panel, and this is all they got to show? I get that most Japanese productions tend to drip feed things over the course of a few months, but Iyoku's current motivation is not to do things like they do in Japan. It's to drum up more hype for Dragon Ball internationally. His focus is international. That's why he went to the Battle Hour in LA to reveal all of this, but the way they do it in Japan just doesn't work elsewhere. It doesn't bring up the hype. It's too limited. The order was wrong as well, so people would have tuned out already, and we only got like 3 images. Most of them we already saw, and the hyping of said images was not in keeping with the audience in the room. And we didn't even get a Q&A or something like that. Usually with a lot of these Japanese panels, and I've been to a few of them myself as a guest at conventions, the way they usually work is intense secrecy. There's usually extra bouncers, and they also tend to not take that many questions from the audience. Sometimes you don't get any questions at all. It's just like, instead of a Q&A panel or a panel, it's like a presentation. That's pretty much all it is. And you just get the people talking, and then you get the translator, and then polite clapping, which is respectful, and I don't mind that at all. That's fine. But it doesn't really feel like an interactive panel. We're just seeing a presentation. I always find it more interesting is that if you're a guest and then you are with Japanese guests and you do get to go to an after party or something like that, oh, it's a lot more fun that way because usually there's a drink or two involved. But at least at this panel, we weren't getting people going, "We want Moro!" every 10 seconds. Yeah, this was a lot more respectful. Okay, I get that. That was fine. But I think the biggest message to take from all of this is this. You need to adapt your marketing strategy here. This is not going to work for an international capacity. You need to change it. And the way it was kind of done with Superhero, the trailers for Superhero were really good. The soundtrack is very Western. This was going for an international market and it kind of worked. What I hope to see is a more attuned marketing campaign going forward for a worldwide audience instead of just taking what works from Japan and then replicating it wholesale and thinking that it will be just as effective. It does not work. The entire thing with Victory Uchida and Toyotaro, their interviews and hyping up chapter 100 when there was nothing to get hyped about. Their interviews for the manga, it works in Japan because they like it that way. But they post these to the international Dragon Ball site too and expect the same impact. They don't. In fact, it just comes off as pandering. We need a more different way of publicizing Dragon Ball, which is more aware about what all these different markets want. You should have a marketing strategy for the likes of the Americas, and you should have one for Europe. You should have one for the Middle East. You should have one for the African countries. Just trying to read the audiences in different places about what they want and what they would like to see in Daima, and then appealing to them. So it means everybody internationally can get behind something that they find more interesting. Some places might like that thing, they might not like that thing elsewhere. And then you just have to do a little bit of a ratio. It's like a set of dials. That's how marketing strategies work. It's like how Netflix takes the data of a particular user and changes the thumbnail accordingly. They have a bank of thumbnails and then change them every now and again to appeal to that particular user. That's what they really should be doing with Daima, to appeal for different markets and see what they like. I understand when they don't do that, when Japan is clearly the main focus, but as the new producer of Capture Corporation in Tokyo, he stated he wants to capture the international appetite. And the way they've done it, nah, this ain't it.